Hello, everybody, and welcome in. We are so excited to see you all today. Welcome to our webinar on how to build a Lucid's developer platform. We've got some amazing things coming up, but first things first, I want to know who's in this call. So go ahead, everybody who is here, hop on into the chat and let us know who's on this call. Tell us your name, where you're calling from, and what your fancy job title is. So yours truly, I am Cal Martin. I'm going to be your host with the most today, the MCCM. I am calling you from Central San Marcos, Texas, and I am a customer trainer here at Lucid Software. So feel free, hop into the chat and let us know where you're calling from. Mark from New York, welcome. Architect from WBD, awesome. Seattle, Phoenix, Miami. Hello, Miami. Salt Lake City, home of our central office. Orlando, I love Orlando. Detroit, Phoenix, Ottawa. Okay, Canada, welcome in. UK, thanks for joining us. Santa Barbara, Colorado, Iowa. What's up, Andrew? I was born in Des Moines. I love me some Iowa people. Star, I'm glad you're okay. We just had them in here in Central Texas as well, so I feel you on the tornado watch. Oh my goodness, it's lovely to hear from you all and say hi to you all. You guys are so excited in this chat. I love to see it. Just quick heads up, this webinar is going to be amazing today. We've got some members from our engineering team here. They're going to help you walk through some of this stuff on the Lucid's developer platform. So I already introduced myself. Again, I'm the MCCM Cal Martin, but I'm going to have them introduce themselves as well and give you some insight on who is speaking with us today. So I'm going to pass the metaphorical mic to Alyssa to introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Stringham, and I'm the Senior Engineering Manager leading our API teams. I'm super passionate about the power of Lucid's visual collaboration tools and how much more powerful these can be with our developer platform to solve your unique needs. I've built extension both to help internal teams at Lucid and just for fun for personal use, and I'm excited to support you in all of your builds. Alex, over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Alex. I'm a software engineer on one of our API teams. So I build these APIs that we're going to be talking about, and I also like to build stuff on them. I've been building little projects for some of the different teams here that are going to look a lot like what we're going through today. So yeah, back over to you, Cal.
Fantastic. All right. I did say I'm the host with the most, so I got to do some housekeeping, everybody. I'm so sorry. I need a clean house before we start our party today. So some housekeeping items before we get started. First thing, the most important thing to tell you, this webinar is being recorded. That means you can expect an email with a link to the recording within a day or two. It'll be sent over to the email that you used to register for this webinar. So make sure you're checking that inbox for tomorrow or Monday to get this recording. That email will also include some cool additional resources, including some blog posts and some extra information about how our product can help you feel better and integrate with some of these developer tools. We got to talk about some really important things, everybody. So this is where I really need your attention for 2 seconds. If you've not been to a fancy Zoom webinar before, you might notice that your camera and your microphone are turned off. That is so it is really easier for you to focus on what Alex and Alyssa are going to share with you today. That being said, makes it hard to ask your questions and unmute. So we've got 2 different tools for you to ask your questions and to connect with us all here. So go ahead and zoom on down to the bottom of your Zoom screen. You should see 2 different options. You should see a chat and a Q&A. Feel free to hop into the chat like you've been doing already to share where you're calling from, to share some excitement, share some fun emojis, all that kind of cool stuff. However, as we're going, if you've got some big brain questions, please hop into the Q&A for all of those questions. Why do we have 2 different buttons and why are we asking for the Q&A? We ask for the Q&A for 3 main reasons. Reason number 1, we don't want to lose your great question in the chat. We've got over 100 people in here, and if they're all in the chat asking questions, we're going to lose it. So Q&A, we can look at and answer those as we're going. So Q&A, please. As we're also going, we can answer those questions with our amazing support team backstage. So if we can't get to it live, they can type you a great answer. And third, and most importantly, is that anybody can review questions in the Q&A. So if you ask a question, you can go back and review that answer at any point during our session. So again, chat for thoughts, feedback, and excitement, Q&A for all of your amazing questions you'll have today. So hop in there and let us know what you're thinking and the great questions you've got. Next up, we also have live captions enabled. So if you need some live captioning support, please feel free to turn those on and we will be able to get you that captioning support really quickly and easily. All right, so let's dive into it. As you all may or may not know, Lucid is the leader in visual collaboration through the use of visuals. We know teams can work more effectively, both asynchronously and in real time. We can communicate complex ideas, align towards common goals, and ultimately innovate a lot faster. With Lucid's developer platform, we've actually enabled our users to extend the power of visual collaboration to their own workflows. Wow, that's some cool stuff. Alyssa, in particular, is going to dive deeper into all of the possibilities available to you. But using the developer platform, you can customize Lucid to suit your specific use case, bring visualization into your workflows, or build advanced new workflows. And you can import custom shapes and assets to improve your Lucid experience. In short, you can make Lucid even more valuable for your team. But we want to show you exactly how that works and how easy it is to build on this platform. So we've got quite a few topics to cover today. So for those of you who haven't heard about Developer Platform, we'll give you a quick higher level intro and show what types of apps you can build with your APIs. Then Alex is going to build a data visualization app right in front of you. This is going to be the coolest thing, everybody. I cannot wait for this. I got to see a demo earlier. It is so cool. I nerded out so hard. So I'm so excited for you all to see this. We'll share some documentation and the source code afterwards as well. So you can use this as a starting point for creating your own custom apps. And then after that, we'll talk about what else could be built on top of what was built today. And we'll leave some time at the end for Q&A. But that being said, do not wait till the end to ask your questions. Find that Q&A, start asking as we're going, and we'll either answer it live in the Q&A or answer it live at the end of our session. All right, everyone take a sit back. Everyone ready? Alyssa, let's hear some more about the developer platform.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cal. We know that you all likely have different workflows that you would benefit from automating, benefit from being able to improve with Lucid to be able to take advantage of Lucid's visual collaboration tools. Today, I'll cover a few types of builds that we support, and I also want to call out that these are just the start. There are many other use cases that are possible. So what can you build on the Lucid developer platform? First off, we have a few types of embeds. So you can embed Lucid documents in whatever tools you use. MS Teams, Confluence, Jira are supported, as well as many others. And you can also go the other way and embed rich visuals into your Lucid documents directly. So you could have Google Docs, Microsoft Office, Confluence articles, all embedded live, as well as any other types of rich visuals that you want to include. Those types of builds are supported today. Next, you can create custom shapes that could be used by your team, whether you have proprietary shapes to map out processes internally, or just need shapes that are not supported natively in Lucid today. Both of those types of use cases are supported really well by our custom shapes. Another use case we support is what we call Lucid Cards. This is a way to visualize tasks from external systems. With these cards, you can keep the data in sync with your external system of record. We support Jira, Azure DevOps, and many others, and you could build your own card integration. So you can go from brainstorming to execution in Lucid's visual canvas. In our visual canvas, you can then map out dependencies and collaborate with others as you execute on your projects. This has been transformational for my teams and really cool that we've been able to use Lucid Cards as we're planning out projects to support more functionality in our extensions and in other cards. And kind of going on to the next, the Lucid Cards is one specific type of data visualization app where you have data in this external system of record and you want to be able to interact with it visually on a canvas. But there are many other times that you may want to visualize data from an external system. The demo that we will cover today is an example of a data visualization app. As some other examples, ServiceNow built an automation to visualize your application portfolio automatically from the data that's in ServiceNow. Lucid also built an AI prompt flow extension that allows you to visualize, experiment with, and track large language model prompts and responses as a flowchart in Lucid. These are, again, just some examples of data visualization. We'll go deeper into a specific example today, but kind of some ideas to get your minds kind of minds turning. I covered a few examples of what you could build with embeds, custom shapes, Lucid Cards, and data visualizations, but it doesn't stop there. All of these are just some categories. We have many other things that you could do on top of the APIs we support today. As a few examples of what's been built by partners, Dropbox Dash built a tool that allows you to search across all your documents, including content from Lucid documents. Post-it built an image capture to Post-it app to take your teams from physical to digital collaboration. I built various tools, something to generate bingo boards for our teams at Lucid. This was kind of just a for fun project. And then we ended up using for some team activities internally to be able to quickly generate different bingo boards. More than anything, we're excited to see what innovative solutions you come up with to help your teams work together in Lucid. So today, we want to get to the meat of this and kind of cover the extension that we're going to build live. We're going to show you a demo application that we built for developers to use as a reference in building your own visualizations in Lucid. The code for this is in our open source repo, and we'll also have a guide that we're publishing that goes through the steps that we'll cover live today. So to get to the demo, let's say you own a rental car company. You want to be able to see what cars you have, where they are on the lot, and especially to be able to collaborate with your team to be able to make informed decisions. You then may want to layer on additional processes once you can visualize your rental car inventory. Maybe your technicians need to know when vehicles need to be serviced. Maybe your managers need to understand how many cars they have available and if they need to source more vehicles. So this is kind of the idea behind the example that we're going to cover today. Now that I've covered the high-level business use case, I'll go ahead and hand it off to Alex to demo the app and talk through the steps to building this.
All right, thanks so much, Alyssa. So I just did a real quick demo of what we're going to be looking at today. I want to point out a few pieces of this explicitly, just so we've got kind of a bird's eye view of what's going to happen. There are kind of 4 different elements that we put into this extension. The first, maybe the most obvious one, was that modal that I was using to add some data into our document. So this is an Angular application. I'm going to show you how you can set up front-end frameworks to be used by your extension code. Next, when the user is interacting with this modal, behind the scenes, we are actually adding some data onto the document. You can see over here in our data linking panel, so that we can later use that in our visualization, which is the third step we'll go through today, kind of taking that data, turning it into something on the canvas, doing some layout. And then the last step is some conditional formatting, like Alyssa was mentioning, to kind of flag things that might be coming up for service or anything else that we might want to have kind of a customized rule to flag. Okay, so to get us started, we have published a starter project for this. We've also got the finished app, so both of these will be available on our GitHub. What I've got in the starter here is pretty much just what comes out of our command line tool when you create a new extension. There are a few other things I'll point to. One, I mentioned we have an Angular project running that modal. That's happening right in here. This Angular folder is actually an entire Angular app, just like if you were spinning up a new Angular app and using the Angular command line. That's exactly what we've got here. We've gone and done just a little bit to set up that modal. We're not going to be talking about kind of the Angular specific code here. but I am going to show you how we can leverage this from our extension. The other things going on, we've got some common code, just some constants that I'm going to be leveraging, some data types, and similarly, I've got some validators which will do some parsing for me. And apart from that, looking at kind of the root of this package, we've got two other folders in here. This public folder, if you have static assets that you want hosted alongside your extension for use, so maybe images, or in our case, we've got this Angular application that we want to be able to go and reference, you can go ahead and put that right in this public folder, and we will host it for you right next to your app. And then the last folder I have in here is shape libraries, where we're going to be adding some custom shapes. Okay, so to get us started, I'm going to start up our development servers. There are two of them. The first one is the Angular server. So I'm just going to open that in a terminal, and I'm just like you would for any Angular project, I'm just going to run ng-serve, and that's going to spawn us this localhost address, which you can see looks just like that modal we were looking at. So that's great. Okay, our Angular server is up and running. The other one we need to do is the Lucid extension development server. So this is using our command line tool called Lucid package. And I'm going to take the latest version, and I'm going to do our test editor extension. There we go. So this should spin up a little development server, and this will be what Lucid is actually going and talking to. So if we come back over into here, I'm just going to clear this out and clear out our data really quick. There we go. Okay. Now let me give this a refresh, and we should see that same menu item popping up here. We've got an extensions menu. Now I have just swapped this, so it's going to be using the version that we have running locally. Right now, we just have this little alert happening saying replace me. That is happening over here in our extension code. And this is the main entry point that Lucid is going to be looking for. Right now, you can see all we're doing is adding that menu item and then spawning a little alert when the user clicks the menu item. So the first thing that I want to do is sub out this alert for our Angular modal. To get started, I would like a folder over here to put my code in. And I'm going to create a rental car manager, modal, and this needs to export a modal class, which will extend the modal class out of our Lucid extension SDK. On here, I'll have a constructor, and I need a editor client to pass in to my super constructor. And then I can also specify some configurations. So we'll have a title. This is a user-facing title, so I'll go rental car manager. And then we can also specify the height, say 600, and the width, we'll go 800. And the last thing that we need here is a URL that specifies where we want to load this modal from. So we could just use our localhost address. That is not quite going to be what we want, though, because when end users are kind of accessing this, they're not going to have access to my localhost server. So instead, I'm going to use a reference to a static file that I've put in here, this public folder. You can see I'm just basically linking over to that localhost address to grab our scripts and links to some various things. So I can go and reference this HTML file by using a relative URL, which will be relative to this public folder. So I should be able to go to Angular and index.html. And if we go ahead and come back here, oh, I need to hook this up the rest of the way. So we've created our modal class. Let's go and actually spawn one of these. Hello. And we'll pass in the client that we've got. And then in place of this, we are going to ask the modal to show itself. Okay. With that done, we should now see our modal come up. And we go in here, and it looks great. Okay, so now I can come in here and click buttons, and all of this is handled in the Angular code, but it's not actually doing anything. And you can see over here, we're not getting any data inserted. So we need to respond to events that are coming from the modal when the user clicks some buttons. The way that we're going to do that is by receiving some messages in our modal class. So I'm just going to paste in a little override function here that's going to take a message from the frame. And this will get called. I'll show you in the Angular app where we are kind of setting this up. Inside of our Angular app, we will have a number of places where we're calling this parent.post message, and then we're handing in some kind of JSON blob. So here where we're posting our cars back after we've generated some, we're going to go and generate a car that's got, you know, an ID, a make, a model, a color, just some different JSON data that we're going to be able to visualize later. Okay, so when that parent.post message happens, this message.frame is going to get called. I'm just parsing the message to make sure that it's JSON, and then we're going to do some more interesting stuff after that. One other thing that I'm going to need to do to be able to manipulate data on the document is I will need a data proxy dependency. So let's set that up. And that will also come right out of our SDK. And before I forget, let's go ahead and I'll create one of those. I need a data proxy. And that will just take the client in. Okay, listen. All right. So we are now ready to start talking about data on these documents. And before we jump into the code, I want to just take a real quick look at how we represent data in Lucid documents. We've got 3 tiers to this system. The outermost tier is the data source layer. For us, we're just going to have one data source that is going to manage all of the data for the rental car manager app that we're building. You could have multiple data sources, and in your extension, you'll have access to any of the data sources on the document. Within each of those data sources, we have a set of collections. You can think of these very much like a database table. They're going to specify, here are all of the columns that my data will have, and here's all the types that those columns should have. And then the lowest layer are the data items that are kind of like rows within those collections. And they must adhere to what the collection has defined its schema to be. So, okay, with a better idea of where we're going, let's go look at how we set this up in the code. One of the most important pieces is our data source. So I'm going to come into my modal, and the first thing that I want to do is create a little helper that will get us a data source if we need it. So I'm going to do a get or create data source function. And in here, I am going to see if we already have an existing version of the data source. And I can do that by looking at the data proxy and looking through its data sources to find one that has the name that I'm looking for. And this is just a constant that I've defined as rental car manager. So if that exists, then we can return it. And if not, then we are going to go ahead and create it. And that was the other function we had available on this data proxy. We can add a data source. The only thing we really need to specify is that data source name. You can put some extra config in here if you want to store off, maybe an account ID or something that's going to help you partition between different data sources. That's totally fine to do too. Okay, so we've got a data source now. I'm going to just paste in one other helper function that is very much like this one, except that it will add for us the collection. instead of the data source. So here I will take in the collection name. I will also take in the collection schema, which we're going to look at in just a second. And that will hand me back the collection that has been added to the data source. Okay, so we've got a way to create a data source, a way to create a collection. We need to specify a schema for our data. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a new folder for these schemas to live in called collections. And inside here, let's create a cars collection first. And we will define a car schema. And this will be of type schema definition. In here, we need three things. The most important one is the fields that the schema is going to have. So these are like our database columns. There'll be an array, and each one of these will have a name. So we know we've got an ID field coming up, and it will also have a type. These need to come out of our enum here, which has, kind of all the basics you'd expect. We're mostly going to be focusing on strings, numbers, and dates, but you can see there's a handful more in here if you need them. Okay, so we're going to have an ID field that's a string. We can also define a user-facing field label for this, and that's what's going to show up in the data linking panel. I'll show that in just a sec. But here, we're just going to have an object where the key is the name of the field and the value is our user-facing name. Okay, and then the last thing that we need in our schema is a primary key defined. The primary key needs to uniquely identify each row within this collection. So it will be one of the fields that we believe is unique for each row of data we're putting in. It's actually an array, so you can specify multiple fields if you want. In our case, we are just going to be using randomly generated UUIDs for this ID field. So I can assume that that one will always be unique for each row of data. That is kind of the basics of how you set up a schema. I'm just going to go ahead and paste in the rest of our car schema. So we've got, the type, the make, the model, like we were seeing on that JSON object. Okay, so that's what we do for the cars collection. I'm going to paste another one over here. Excuse me. That will be our lots collection. And this one looks very similar, a little bit simpler. We're just taking the address and an image. And let me come back here. Okay. So we've got a couple schemas ready to go. Let's go back into our modal and use this helper to create them. So I want a get or create cars collection. And this will give me back a collection. Give me get or, oops, sorry. Create collection, and we're going to pass in a name for our collection. That's just another constant, and then that schema that we just built. And I will do the same thing for our lots collection. And we'll go the lots collection name and the lot schema. Okay, so we can now go ahead and use these when we receive a message from the frame. Now I want to pick out particularly when the app is sending one of these messages back. So here we were seeing this post message with the cars and also this post message with the lots. I want to accept these messages and add data to those collections when I see them happen. So I'm just going to do a little bit of really quick pasting in of some JSON parsing using the validator functions I talked about earlier. There we go. So here I'm just making sure that it is a cars style message and that that message is formatted the way that we expect it to be. And provided all that's the case, I'm going to grab my collection, create cars collection, and on this collection, I can patch its items to manipulate its content. So in our case, we're going to use this added field to add some new items, and we can just pass in all the cars that got handed to us. You can also, though, you can delete items out of here with our deleted field, or we also have changed if you want to change data that's already on the document. Okay, so we're just adding some data. I'm going to go ahead and paste in the one for our car lots as well. And import these guys. All right, so now if I go back to my document, let's give this a quick refresh. I'm going to pull open our data panel. We've got nothing right now. We should see when we click some of these, there's now data popping up over here. Visualize button, still not doing anything. That'll be next. But we do have car and lot data happening. So we've got our UI to help users kind of interact with what data they want to bring in. We've got the data now added to our document. It's time to start thinking about how we're going to visualize the data. Now, before we jump too far into the code, I really recommend that you stop at this point and go into Lucid and try to start mocking out what you want these things to look like. So what we did in this case is we came in here and we pulled out a little process block and we started messing with the text formatting, and we started adding formulas and some conditional formatting rules. And we did a little bit of a layout to understand just where we're trying to go. We can even mock out some data on our shapes, which we've done. So we just came in here and manually added some data to this shape. And we can use that to create formulas in our text that will go and look up data out of the shape data. So with all of that kind of ready to go and these mocks prepared, the next step is going to be a lot easier. Where I want to start is on this shape aspect. So there's a few ways that you can do this. We're going to be doing two of them. One way is if you notice over here in kind of our final visualization, we've got these big frame style things. Those are actually just process blocks that we've stretched. We've put the text at the top and made the text the address of our car lot. These little shapes that are displaying each of our cars, these are going to be custom shapes that you can specify in your extension. So let's go look at how we did that. Okay, we've been operating largely in this editor extensions folder. I'm going to jump us down now over into our shape library section. Right now, all I have is this empty library manifest, and you can actually see that open right here in my shapes library. I've got no shapes in it right now, so let's go ahead and add a shape. So to do that, I'm going to give myself a new folder, shapes, and we are going to call this car.shape. Now, this uses a custom templating language that we've got well documented on our site. For the purposes of today, I'm going to be going kind of quick. We are just going to throw in here the definition for the outermost kind of silhouette for the shape, which is going to be a rectangle geometry. And then within that, we can start specifying some subshapes. So if I wanted to add in maybe a text area, I'm going to go ahead and paste this one in. So here I'm just pasting in a definition that's going to spell out some bounds. That's these are all going to be using relative coordinates from the top left. I'm saying please go 5% in from the left and 5% down from the top, and then we'll extend 80% of the width. So that's kind of what's happening in this bounds block. And then the text area is defining how we're actually going to draw the thing. In this case, we're going to draw some text, we're going to do some styling on it, and we're going to align it to the left side. I need to fill in here what this text is going to be. And you might have noticed we had set up some formulas over here. So I can actually just come right into our UI and steal this formula and go into our text section here and add that. And that should get us a rectangle that should show us now a shape's manufactured date, its make, and its model. And if it doesn't have any of the data on it, it will just show some placeholders. It'll just say year, make, and model. Last thing that I need to do to use this thing is go ahead and add it to our library manifest right here. I'm just going to paste this guy in. So here we're just giving ourselves a name and some default height and width. Okay, with both of those in place, we should now be able to go look at our demo. And sure enough, we're getting our year, make, and model. You can see we have no shape data right now, but if I wanted to go take any one of those rows from that cars collection that we had, I could just drag this on here and you'll see that right away we've started updating. We've got shape data now on here, and our formula is pulling out the values that we care about and putting them into the right spot. So that's looking pretty good. The last piece of the shape that we're going to do is just the other couple of text fields that we've got in here. One's going to be for the mileage on the car, and then the other one will be for if it needs service. I'm just going to come in here and add these right there. All right. And with that, we should have, let me just for safety. Shoot. One sec. Okay. Just making sure that's all right. That should get us our shape ready to go. And now we're ready to start laying these things out on the canvas. I'm going to take us back really quick to our end goal. So we've got here. We're going to try and arrange our things in these columns, and then within each column, we will group all of the cars that share the same car lot. So the column will be the car lot, and we'll create one of these custom shapes for each car that we want to put in there. So let's go look at the code to do that. When we are in our modal class, we are first going to take in a new type of message. I'm going to be looking for a visualize style message, and that I'm just going to paste in here with some parsing logic. We're just going to parse the body, make sure it's a visualize type body. And then we're going to pass down into a helper function that I'm just going to paste in right here. Okay, so we've got this visualize function, which under the hood, I'm doing one other thing to load in the block classes that we're going to be drawing onto the canvas. So like I said, we're going to use that process block to represent the lots. And then we have a custom shape, which we just defined, and we're going to grab the handle for that so we can use it later. So, okay, we are ready to handle when a user clicks the visualize button, but we need to figure out where on earth to draw this thing. In order to do that, I'm going to add one more dependency to our stack here. I need a viewport. I'll type viewport, and this viewport will tell me what the user is currently looking at. So I can get the currently visible rectangle. Get visible rect. That will give me a box object that gives me X and Y coordinates and then a height and width. And I can use that to construct a start point for our visualization. I just need X and Y coordinates here. So I'll take our rect.x and I will add in just a little bit of padding from our constants. Okay, and then I'll do the same for our y-axis. Y. Okay. So we've got a start point. Now it's time to start figuring out where we're drawing all of the lots and shapes. this would be the point where, you start dusting off the algebra and figuring out some layout logic. For the sake of speed, I'm just going to paste in these functions and we can look at them together really quick. Nothing too fancy going on here, though. We are just taking in all of the things that we need to draw and starting to figure out, okay, here's where we're going to draw all of the lots. We'll figure out, its XY coordinate and then the width and height that we need to use. And for each of the cars within those lots, we'll figure out where the lot starts and just space some cars down the column. So that's all that's going on here. I'm just prepping up so that we can take these positions. I'm going to have lot positions, and I'll have car positions. And this will come out of my get lot and car positions, which will hand lot nodes and our start point. Okay, so now we know where we want to draw these things. Next step is to start actually putting some blocks on the canvas. I'm going to do the lots first. So here's a really quick helper that will draw some content for us. We're grabbing the page off of the viewport, and then for each of the lots that we want to draw, we're going to add a block to that page at that lot's bounding box area. So this will put it into the right spot. And then finally, we're going to put the text in the process block to be the address and align it at the top. Okay, that's our lots taken care of. So we could go ahead and do this dot draw lots and pass in our lot positions. And that will draw out all of our lots. We want to do a very similar thing for our cars. I'm going to paste in a little function here. Okay, so we've got another function to do our cars. The only difference here is that we're taking in that car block that we defined earlier, and we are using that in our add block call instead. Okay, so we've got some cars that are going to get drawn. Let's go ahead and look really quick at how this all looks. And we need to pass in this viewport. There. Okay, let's go ahead and give that a spin. All right. So we'll add in some data here, and then we'll try visualizing it. And I forgot to draw the cars out. Whoops. We need to call this function. Okay. Now, we try that again. Now we are drawing out all of the blocks. You'll notice, though, that we're just showing those year, make, model placeholders. They are set up kind of similarly, where if we were to drag out some rows of data onto these, they would start displaying correctly. So let's get the extension to do that part for us. I'm going to come down here into the bottom of my draw cars. And in the case that we did get a car block back, we will go ahead and set its reference key. This reference keys are how we target data that is in a collection. So what I need to provide is a name for this reference key. We'll just call it shape data, and then some configuration saying which collection does it come out of, which we can use with our cars collection and grab its ID. And then we need to give it a primary key. We know that this is going to be the ID for the car. And since the ID is actually a string, I'm going to put some quotes in here just to wrap it up, to distinguish it from, maybe a number that we're just serializing into a string. So let me go ahead and pull my car.id right here. Some quotes around it. Okay, so that should set its reference key. And at that point, let's go and see this in action one last time. Just add a bunch of data in here. There we go. And sure enough, we are drawing out the cars. They are linked up to the data. We can click on any one of these and go look at its linked data, which is going to be one of the rows out of here. Okay, that is all we're going to get to today. The last step in this extension would be adding some conditional formatting rules like we saw over here to do this overdue and the color icon. Those are going to be available in a guide that we're going to be publishing, as well as the open source code for all of the stuff that we've looked at today. So, okay, that we've kind of touched a number of different angles on the extension API here. We've done some custom shapes, we've done some layout. There are, though, a number of things that I want to point out that your extensions can leverage that we did not talk about today. So your extensions can also maybe go make a request out to an OAuth API if you want to get the data from some external source. We also have a system where you can keep data that's inside of our document, and maybe the user is messing around in here, or these shapes are linked up and they're coming in and editing these fields. We have a system to let you synchronize data between Lucid and those external sources. There's really just quite a few other things in the API that we did not touch on today. I really recommend you go look through our developer documentation to see if there's anything else in there that catches your eye. Apart from that, I think I'm going to turn things back over to Cal now, and we are going to close it out.
I mean, can we just say for 2 seconds, holy API Batman, Alex just live coded for 25 minutes for all of us. Please hop into the chat and give some love to Alex and Alyssa. They have worked so hard on all of this, as well as the rest of the developers team have worked so hard to make a really cool, engaging event for you so you can see these really cool things. And I nerd out watching it. So I hope you guys got some really cool insight from this. Before, though, we dive into all your amazing questions and things that you might be thinking of as we're getting ahead here in a second, we do want to point you to a couple resources, which we'll also send via email with the amazing recording, so you can watch this at your own pace, maybe actually dust off that algebra if you're like me, and maybe catch up with Alex a little bit slower than 25 minutes. So with that being said, first, check out our developer resources where you can find all of the documentation you will need to build, plus our integrations marketplace, so you can see additional examples of what partners and customers have built using the Lucid developer platform. Then we have a developer documentation walking you through the build that Alex has just showed us amazingly, if you want to go back and try that for yourself with the recording. And finally, we encourage you to join the Lucid developer community. If we don't get to your question here today, the community is a great spot to reach out. We regularly monitor questions that come in. That being said, we are now going to open the Q&A for any and all questions you may have. That being said, we got a great question earlier that we'd love to answer live for either Alyssa or Alex. What are options to distribute my app to others?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So we have a few different ways that you can distribute your app. We have a route to publish your integration to our public-facing marketplace. That way it can be available for all customers on Lucid, all users on Lucid's platform. The second option is private publishing. This is really valuable when you have something that you want to build for your account, for your company. And it's a way for it to show up in our marketplace specifically for your account. And then as you're building and developing, if it's kind of a one-off app and it's just you and some other developers, there's ways to add developers directly to that app as you're kind of building and testing. So those are the 3 different paths that we have to distribute your apps.
Perfect. Thank you, Alyssa. Any other fantastic questions we've got in the Q&A? Feel free to throw them in. You've got 2 experts ready to answer your amazing questions live on screen. So Feel free to hop into the Q&A and type in those questions. While you're maybe typing in those questions, let me again kind of go over some of the important things. You will receive that recording of today's webinar in your email either tomorrow or Monday. So make sure to check the email that you used to register for this session to get that recording, along with a bunch of amazing resources to help you out as you're practicing with that recording as well. Ooh, great question in the Q&A. Can you link the data to a CSV or Excel file to auto-populate the info into the API?
Not right now. However, you might have noticed that when I had that data sources proxy, let me just share again really quick. So over here in my modal, I'm just gonna pull out data proxy. I can look inside of all of the data sources that are currently on the document. And so if you have a user maybe go in, upload the CSV, then you would actually be able in these data sources to come see it. We just haven't built out a flow for your extension to kind of do that whole piece fluidly. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Alex. And also, Alex did mention something that it's not right now. That being said, in our community, we do have a spot for you to recommend features and recommend things that you would like to see in our application. And the more people that ask for those kinds of features, the quicker we can move on in adding those kinds of features. So make sure you check out the community page. Again, not only to receive live support, but to also share feature ideas as well. So that's a great question. Question from Jerry, could we publish mobile apps that are based on Lucidchart?
I'll happily take this one. Jerry, I think this depends on what exactly you're looking to build, and we would happily be happy to talk more. We have our developer community if you want to follow up with any additional questions. We do have a Lucidchart mobile app that is available today for just general editing documents in Lucidchart. Also, any of our REST APIs, many of these APIs could work from making a call from a mobile environment. Again, it will depend on kind of what exactly you are looking to build, and we'd love to kind of dive in deeper with you there to understand how we can support.
Great, Alyssa, great answer there. Again, those Shannon, kudos to Shannon as well. Drop some great links in the chat, both for the community and the dev community page. So if you need further support or resources, please check those out as well. Another question from Jerry, can we publish our code to GitHub for others to use our apps/codes under an OS license?
Yeah, I'll take this one, and I'll start off by showing off where we've done exactly that. So we have got our open source code all living in, this sample Lucid extensions folder. This is publicly available, so you all can go and look at this. Here are a bunch of different examples. We've got the one that we looked at today is the rental car manager here. We've also got the starter that I started us from. So this will be the final version. And then I saw somebody asking about React. We've got a React example in this front-end frameworks folder. So anyways, yes, you can definitely add your extension into version control and work from there.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, thank you. We've got another question from Dane, or Dan, I apologize if I mispronounced your name. What parts of this API functionality for visualization is new, and what parts are mature? That might be a little higher level question for you guys there.
Yeah, so I would say that the custom shape stuff that we looked at is fairly mature. We've got, a lot of different ways for you to build those out, and a pretty good set of documentation on how to do it. A lot of the stuff that we had around, getting modals in, manipulating the contents on the document, all of that has been trod quite a bit. The one piece that we didn't look at directly, but was part of our kind of completed example is the conditional formatting rules. I would say that is probably the newest thing to the API that we touched on today. And we are working on getting some better documentation out for that in the near future. But everything else should be pretty fair game, safe to use.
Yep. And I'd add that we are regularly adding both across APIs for extensions as well as REST APIs across the board. We post in our developer community as new functionality is added, as well as update our documentation. So if you want to follow along on that kind of new functionality and be updated, those are great places.
So what I'm hearing is we really need to check out the community page and the developer page. That's what I'm really hearing today, is that's the great place to go for all these amazing resources and from other people as well. I love that. Great questions. We've got a few more minutes live with the experts. I'm assuming fingers are furiously typing questions, but do we have any more questions we can answer for you or any more support we can share before we send you all free to, I don't know, maybe not do rental car management, but do, resource allocation, team management, all those kinds of amazing things you can get done with this really amazing tool. Oh, Jerry, great question. Can we embed in PowerPoint?
This is one that is Lucid has an integration. If someone could post a link to our marketplace. We actually have an integration with PowerPoint today where you can embed a Lucid document directly in PowerPoint as well as other Office tools. And we have similar functionality for Google products as well. So that is one that's, supported today.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, we love our integrations. We love the marketplace. I highly recommend checking them out either from the Lucid homepage or inside of your application itself as you're building your documentation as well. All right, we're going to do a final call for any questions here. We'll wait about maybe 30 more seconds for typing fingers. And then we're going to have to run and let you all start building your own amazing things. So last call for questions before we send you all free. Alrighty, it looks like we're good. I want to say thank you all so much for joining us. One more time in the chat, give a big thank you to Alyssa and Alex for amazing resources and an amazing live demo. I cannot say how impressed I am with what they did. That was such a cool presentation. I definitely want to go play around with it myself. Again, check out the community page, check out the developer page to get live resources and live support from people just like these two. I think this was an amazing session. We hope you guys enjoyed it all as well. And we're really excited to see what you do and all the great things you guys get to build. So as always, I end all of my sessions with happy diagramming, everybody, and take care. Bye-bye.